Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh and Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned, my friends are going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
Here we are. It is Monday, and you know what that is? It's Indie Creator Studio. We got an awesome show scheduled for you today. With us today, hey, we got Phil back. How's it going, Phil?
Hey, Leo. It's good to see you, my friend.
Patrick, my friend.
Hi, everybody. Hey. Happy to be here, as always.
Great to have you. Would you like to introduce our awesome guests?
Oh, I would, because today we have the writers and directors of the spectacular new film, perfect for all of your holiday viewing, especially if you are just a big kid at heart and you just love Santa. We have Eshom and Ian Nelms, the writers and directors of Fatman, starring Mel Gibson and Walton Goggins. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
We're good. Thanks for having us, guys.
Good to be here, gents.
So, Patrick, you couldn't have said it more enough. Fatman was phenomenal. I went into it, with, the trailer looked awesome, but with it being a Mel Gibson movie, I thought, went into it with low expectations, and by the end of it, I was floored. It's friggin' phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I was gonna say, just looking at the poster art is phenomenal. You have this, this guy with a white coat standing in the middle of the woods with, some sort of high-powered rifle, and you've got the specter of Mel Gibson looming over him. It doesn't give a lot away. I mean, as the movie progresses, you kind of get where the art is coming from, but it's very intriguing to just look at that. And because I didn't watch the trailer, I didn't look at IMDb, which I normally do. I just wanted to see 100% going into it blind. What is this? And
I feel like that's the best way to go into it, because there's there's some reveals in there that we certainly, when we wrote the script and when we were hoping that how the film would play out, that it works better that way. For the first 20 or 30 minutes, you're getting used to the characters instead of worrying about the mythos that starts to pop up.
Yeah, I don't even want to read the IMDb synopsis, because that to me gives away too much.
Yeah. Now, Pat, did you know that he was Santa Claus, though?
I wasn't sure how to take it. I was like, is he Santa, or is he like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm Santa. Like, I'm a guy that, I believe I'm Santa. Like, I going into it, I knew nothing about it. I just saw the poster art, and like, that was it. So I was trying to guess what it was. And I'm like, well, he's got a gun, so something interesting is going to happen.
That's pure screening, man.
That's exactly what we wanted it to be, right? Like, for the first 20 minutes, he was like, is this guy going to become Santa, or how is this going to work? And then ultimately, you're like, holy smokes, he's been Santa the whole time, right? That's what kind of the design of it was.
Well, and also, I think only one character referenced him as Santa. Everybody else is, Chris, or, I don't think anybody else called him Santa, right?
Yeah, obviously, only when he's at the homestead.
Yeah. Everyone's Chris this, Chris that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see the thing later, like, again, without giving too much away, like, there's the reference of Santa and then him. So, like,
Sure.
The actual name is used, and then you see him again, and you put two and two together. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's fairly interesting, because there are little breadcrumbs that are left, but there's still enough, up to a certain point where it's like, is he really coming home on Christmas morning?
Right.
Going into the bathroom and taking care of things. And it's like, now why? Like, his hands are all beat up. He's got this other injury. Why would, like, what is that all about? So it gives you a lot of intrigue along the way.
Well, tell you what, either Ian or Eshom, would either of you like to give a synopsis of the movie, and then we'll play the trailer?
Yeah, sure. It's Fatman is about a precocious young man who receives a lump of coal in his stocking, and then proceeds to hire a hitman to take out Santa Claus.
Awesome. Here we go.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've lost my influence. Maybe it's time I retired the coat.
You still have it.
Some kids with a deer rifle put 2 holes in the sleigh, one in me. All I have is a loathing for a world that's forgotten.
The United States military would like to procure your services.
This is a one-time deal, gentlemen. How are you, Mike? Nicole and the kids are well, I hope.
Where are you?
You just lost a big son, Fatman!
What's the job?
I'd like you to kill Santa Claus.
I'm looking for the fat man.
You can't be serious.
This is what people actually think of me. Christmas is a farce. I am a joke.
What's the purpose of your visit?
Hunting. I'm gonna kill some things.
There is a rising number of our youth making poor decisions.
What the big man's head?
Severed heads rot, they mold.
They don't want his beard.
I'm not shaving off a dead man's beard. Your workers sure have healthy appetites.
That's why elves live much longer than humans.
And Chris, he does the same?
No, it's a giving that keeps him young.
I've come for your head, fat man!
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh.
You think you're the first?
Oh, the fields will
Think I got this job because I'm fat and jolly?
sing all the way. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
How come while you sleep? The fat man's got his eye on you, kid. Hey, whoa! Oh, that's Donner. Lucky it wasn't Blitzer. Should tear your package clean off.
Dane Ingenton says the elves were great, but that kid was Children of the Corn levels crazy.
Chance Hurstfield.
Philip, I don't think we've heard.
I have to. Sorry, I was just gonna say, precocious is definitely a word that I would use. It's definitely a word to use for that kid. Precocious. Yeah. And I was gonna say, seeing the kid at the very beginning, like the way he's introduced, I'm like, is that an adult or is that a child? Like, you know, especially the way he carries himself.
Right.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
That's the time. I mean, we searched high and low to find Chance, and honestly, when we got his video, it was undeniable. We're like, okay, we have to, maybe, he was so good. Ian and I looked at each other and we're like, maybe he's too good. I mean, like we have to meet him. Is he acting or is this really who he truly is? And honestly, like when we got on the video conference with him, he couldn't be a sweeter kid. Our experience with him is the total, antithesis of who he plays in the movie. But yeah, he's a remarkable young actor.
He's super talented, honestly.
Philip, we haven't heard from you.
Actually, I went into the film blind as well. I didn't see the trailer. I didn't even know Walton Goggins was in it until I started watching the film. And I had a big question about Walter's character. I noticed basically he is what we would call someone that was created rather than born as a sociopath or psychopath. Mm-hmm. And I was curious, what you were trying to say near the end when he was talking to Chris about what it means to be, well, not what it means to be, but what he basically says, I can't replace your parents. Were you trying to say something about parenting and how bad parents can create another generation of bad people?
Sure, there's a bit of that in there. I think for us, when he says I couldn't replace your parents, it was definitely calling back to how Skinny Man was raised. Obviously, he had a pretty rough childhood with the cigar marks we leave on him and whatnot. And there's a couple other references in there about his childhood or his mother and how he was
hamster comment and stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of childhood trauma. Yeah,
and we're definitely calling back to what could have been, and you see that what he holds up at the end, and he shows Chris before that standoff, that object he's holding up is very much a callback to what Chris was trying to influence him to be as well. And
his rosebud, right? His rosebud.
I mean, do we just want to make this a spoiler show and not have to be so guarded in our conversation?
I feel like I'm dancing around it a little bit.
Okay, let's do that. Anybody watching now, it's spoiler central. So yeah, let's.
There may be spoilers ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we could have a really great conversation about a lot of this stuff, but it's like we just got to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
For us, it was very much he holds up that car at the end, and he's saying, I couldn't replace your parents, and this is the only toy you ever gave me. So Chris is saying, hey, you should have been a police officer, but obviously to how he grew up and the path that he took and the decisions he made in his life led him down a very different path. And that was some of the fun we had building that character as far as what car he drove. That Hot Wheel that he holds up as a police car, and what he drives is the same make as that police car, just jet black, and obviously has turned into sort of more of a
villain mobile.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I loved it too because when he rolls down, I mean, he has to roll down the window when he tells the girl, Merry Christmas. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Walton had so much fun doing. Just working with Walton. He's going to throw so many options at you relentlessly, like funny stuff, and he just needs 2 minutes in a space, and he's doing all the crazy stuff with the lamps and the bat scene, and like he's doing that with the crank, and like barely putting his face above the window as it goes down. He's a riot, man.
The thing too with that car, the one thing that Santa gave him, that shows that he was a good kid and he was a good boy at one point. And then as his parents, like you said, with the cigar and ripping him for liking a hamster versus a different type of pet or whatever, his self-esteem, who knows, all that stuff, went down the tubes. And that's why he became the person he was. And I thought that was really an excellent plot point of how a hitman was created, because he was created, and it shows not only that he was created, but it also shows that at one point as a child, because he has that one toy and Santa wouldn't have gave him coal that year, that means he was a good boy and had innocence before all these terrible things happened to him.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, there's the nature versus nurture conversation, right? And he got tipped the wrong way at one point in his life.
And you guys do a total 180 earlier, showing with when Chris is going through the pictures of the
file folders.
Yeah, the woman that became a firefighter because of the toy she received, and the kid that became a chef because of the toy that he received. So you definitely show definitely the yin and yang of it.
Yeah, I definitely like that.
Yeah, and for us that was super important, right? That. And I don't know that that's been explored. It was fun going through and like really trying to figure out all the little nuances and details of this world, right? Like there were so many questions that Ian and I, when we were crafting the screenplay, had to answer. Like, when do kids stop getting toys? There's no rule out there that says that, and it's not even addressed in our screenplay, but we had to have an answer for it, right? So we came up with, when you become a teenager, you age out. So the last year you're going to get toys is 12, which is Billy's age. And that's why he like takes it nuclear, because this is the last one he was going to get.
And that's why that age is so important in the script, even though it's not really, there's no one saying, oh, this is a very important age for Billy, but you can kind of get the point that Billy's finally at that precipice where he's starting to tip into evil, full tilt. And of course he's like 12. He's about ready to hit 13. He's about ready to start making those decisions, whether he's a good person or a bad person, and really be cemented in that. And obviously you can see he's taking the darker choice.
And what is interesting about his character too is he's created as well, right? Because his mother's out of the picture, his father's off with some other wife or girlfriend in the Caribbean, and he's there just with his grandmother who seems to love and adore him. And since he has that split personality where he can become a really nice boy in front of his grandmother and then turn around and be a dirtbag to the help in the house, again though, all that is because I think of the missing parents and the grandmother being disabled and whatnot. Obviously she can't fill that void that he loses with the parents being, I guess, the type of people they are.
Yeah, absolutely. He's so desperate for his father's affection. And as you can see, like he can't wait to show his father another ribbon that he's won, and he's going to preen over it, right? But when he loses, he has to go out and get the victory so he can show his father to try to desperately get that approval from the man.
And then clearly knows nothing about him.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Right. That's what we love. That he's like could care less about his son. He's out in the Bahamas.
Right. And teddy bear too, right? It's okay, fine. It's a nice gift, whatever. But the point is that he doesn't even send something from the Bahamas that would be a T-shirt or something that's related to where he is. He just gets the generic, he may not even
probably had somebody buy it for him. It's like, you're still 5, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the assistant bought that. It's totally age inappropriate. This kid's, freaking building rockets, and he gets a stuffed bear. So it was just like, absolutely, the father's totally detached, has no clue about his own son. And Ian and I really enjoyed sort of leaving the mother's disappearance, intentionally vague. Like, what happened to this? What happened to his mom? I don't know.
The way he's being raised by his grandmother. I think if you like, the way that it was described in the script was when she's on the phone at the end of the film, it says you get a glimpse of her sort of old money making days. So you see that, and when she ships him off to the science competition, she tells him, you're gonna bring home that blue, Billy. And he's like, that's what winners do. You can see that she as well is a pretty hard driver, and she's been pushing the kid, and it probably has a lot to do with the family dynamic of the dad and everything. Mm-hmm. She's really got this kind of Jekyll and Hyde to herself as well, because when she's on the phone later, she's like, I'm gonna catch him. I'm gonna get she's like a hard charger. Like, oh my God, I didn't think she had this in her.
I was thinking that exactly. Is that this, because when she talks to her grandson and she's kind and whatever. Obviously, you said she wants him to win and stuff, but she's very kind and nice. And then at the end, when she finds out she got ripped off, she's like a fire, in the oven that's going to burn everybody down until she gets what she wants. So I can see that personality. So if that's his role model, then obviously that doesn't help either. Never mind the missing parent or parents.
Actually, during that time, I got the feeling that the grandmother knew it was him, because on the phone she says about the rodent wringing the little rodent's neck.
I'll catch the little cat. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we had, to our understanding, she didn't quite know it was him yet, but I'm sure she's starting to suspect him for sure. Because it's like,
it's only a matter of time before she puts the pieces together, which is why he takes the proactive measure that he does.
She was a businesswoman, a big time businesswoman too, because she's saying, I want to see all the checks with and the signatures and all these other things too. So she wasn't clueless. She's someone that is really there, even though she pretends she's clueless when she's hanging around with her grandson. So it definitely made me know that her history as a young woman, she was probably big into business, just like her son is.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, we wanted to definitely set up that this is this family could be up to nefarious business. And she's no angel herself, right? So that was sort of the little flip for her. It's like, you see she's really sweet and saccharine with him, and then later it's like, oh man, she's got some menace as well.
Yeah, and then Billy has his duplicitous personalities, and you can see that it's systemic. You're like, okay, this is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, systemic. That's a great word. Yeah.
Dan Inkenton says the way he bought everybody else's presents was he thinks he was trying to make everyone as devoid of what they wanted as he was desperate to fill a hole in himself.
Yeah, and I don't think he's wrong with that. Yeah, I think he's absolutely trying to collect as much good in the world and hoard it as possible, right? He's sort of stealing other people's dreams from them, because these toys, in our mind's eye, can have an influence on your future. So in a way, he's out there collecting people's futures.
Yeah, he's a bit of a grim reaper in that sense, that he's stealing people's aptitudes or stealing people's futures away from them, buying them with hard cash at an early age when they don't know any better.
Yeah. How much would you trade your soul for?
And he's doing it, and he's doing it at a time in their life when they're young and they don't understand, and he's doing it to fill this huge void that's been left with himself, because he didn't receive any when he was a child.
Right.
Ben says, great show, guys. Love the Dorkening Familia. And I just want to get one question in here. I know Patrick must have a ton, because he really finds the really good nuggets in it. And actually, I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about Easter eggs later on. But the ending of the film, I don't know if you guys were going towards this or not. I got a really Tarantino-esque vibe at the end. Were you going for that, or how did that come about?
It's funny. It's not like we're going for a Tarantino-esque vibe, but I mean, it's hard to say that guy doesn't have an influence on us as filmmakers, for sure. We love his stuff, but it's what were you going to say, Ash? Go ahead.
Well, are you talking about the showdown in particular?
Yes.
Or yes. Okay. Yeah.
Not in between. Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. That
so,
was.
I mean, I think. Look, some of our reference were Once Upon a Time in the West, or some of our comps for that. With the dusters blowing in the wind and stuff like that. So we were definitely going for a Western vibe. And I think it just happens that
nice.
Yeah, that Quentin's made a Western in the snow that was very iconic and sort of burned into everyone's brain. So you're like,
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, no, I mean exactly. So you're like, oh shit, that's there, right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
But we actually, crafted the first draft of this screenplay, which had that in it, 14 years ago. So, that snow showdown was way previous to the Hateful Eight.
Our references were those, those spaghetti westerns by Leone, which I know Quentin also uses those as his references because they're just such great showdowns. There's such great tension in between those two characters or three characters or whatever your showdown is. There's such great tension as you're sort of moving around and building up what the stakes are to that moment that when it pops off. Those are some of the best movies it's ever been done in. They just happen to be done 50 years ago or 40 years ago.
Our mom had a subscription to the Clint Eastwood collection, so we would get a new Eastwood classic like every other week, and we grew up literally watching like all the Dirty Harry movies, all the the great westerns with Clint, and so that was sort of what we grew up eating our Cheerios to, was watching those.
Nice.
Yeah, it definitely got a lot of a Western vibe. I was trying not to draw the comparison with the Tarantino stuff, but there was definitely some scenes, especially with like the music selection, with Walton in those different scenes, and that's something that you would see in his type of film. But again, it's a trickle down thing. When you have Kurosawa, influencing Leone, influencing Tarantino, and he's been at it for probably since you guys were young kids.
To add to Pat's point, I also felt Goggins' speeches, when he spoke and stuff, they were very much Tarantino-esque as well. When he was talking to the clerk at the pet store, or when he's talking to the little girl and she's in the backseat or whatever, those are the type of things that I would hear. If not Tarantino, those type of films from that era, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrel, all those type of movies that became hip about 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Well, huge compliment, gents.
Yeah, it's definitely like that type of gangster. Like, this guy isn't overly intimidating. He's not like a big burly guy, or it's not like he doesn't have the look of, like, say, a Richard Brake, where he's just terrifying looking. But he's just like this normal, unassuming guy, but he will do terrible things. Like, what's your dog's name? Like that stuff. And obviously, again, Goggins has worked with Tarantino multiple times, so maybe a little bit of that bled into what he was doing. Maybe he drew on some of that. But obviously, this is not. We're not saying that you guys, are like, oh, this is our homage to Quentin Tarantino, because there is some, definitely unique stuff. My biggest question is, when did you come up with this concept? Because this is a great concept for a film.
Well, I think we'd seen, it just came from there being room in the genre, right? Like we'd seen the sociopath that came down your chimney and chopped you up with an axe. We'd seen Tim Allen do the much more family-friendly fare. And Ian and I were like, well, can we make like Santa Claus a fucking badass with some swagger in a contemporary Western? Like, that was the guy we wanted to make like a superhero out of him.
Yeah, we liked that he was pretty much like the OG superhero, really. He had these powers, but he was like a normal guy, and he was sort of incognito, off-season, we figured. And then we started kind of getting into like who he would really be and how that would really function in the world right now, and like how the superpowers would actually, how would he actually use those in everyday life. And then, like, I mean, for an example, like when he has that sort of omniscient moment when that he knows when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, but we had to sort of figure out how that actually worked, because if he had 3 billion people's, like head,
like a cacophony of voices in his head,
he'd be schizophrenic, he wouldn't be able to even function. So it was like, okay, well, he has to either look at a name or look at your face or look at you personally. And then he can kind of get a download. So when he turns to that guy in the bar and he's like, oh, hey, Mike, and he's like, boom, 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 boom. Oh, shit, this guy's got a family. I got to get this guy out of here. And then, like, later on when he sees, like someone's name on a Christmas list or something, he can kind of go, oh, and now I know who that is. Or when he sees Skinny Man in person, he's like, Jonathan Miller, I am not surprised. This is not a surprise now that I know who's here. When he comes to meet Billy later, that scene, he's like, I should have been aware of this as well. Like I see your name on a list, and I knew you were a little shit, and I knew you'd get to this point. And he kind of takes a lot of the blame on himself at that point as well. Chris does.
Well, I like the fact that like it's simultaneously like this omniscience, but there's also that level of human fallibility that goes along with it. Like he's not perfect. He's not going to be perfect because he is, at his core, a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. Pat, I think you nailed it, man. Like we absolutely wanted to make this an everyman with idiosyncrasies and foibles, right? Like somebody that you could relate to. And that's in superheroes that we sort of gravitate towards are like more like the Batmans and the Punishers, the more human, the more we seem to gravitate towards them.
They more have like superhero willpower or superhero. Like it's not like Superman where they can fly and they have lasers in their eyes and there's only like 2 ways to kill them and you got to keep going back to the well on those 2 ideas and try to reinvent them every time, which is tough. Like we like the human fallibility and the human vulnerability. We love that. I love that about superheroes. Those are my favorite ones for sure. So yeah, this Chris character, bringing him down to earth, bringing him down to like a blue collar guy was certainly the idea. And when shit starts to go wrong, hopefully you can start to see a little of yourself or a little of your neighbor, or a little of your problems and his problems, which we really like.
Your dad or your grandpa. Yeah.
And for the first 20 minutes, that was the plan, was to get you hooked on the character, the person. And then as we unraveled those mythical elements later on throughout the movie, gradually bring you into the myth part of it, that it would feel that would help you get more grounded and invested in that character rather than have that throwaway of, a lot of times you start a movie with a mythical character like that and you're like, well, it's fucking Santa, so I don't have to take this very seriously, but we definitely wanted to have stakes by the end of the movie. So our device was getting you into the person first.
Yeah, and I like the fact that I hate when a film will vomit exposition on you. Like, you see the scene at the beginning when he's, shooting the cans and stuff like that, and you're still trying to figure out who he is and what he's doing. And you drop these little hints that he's not old, but ancient. Like he's been around for, I'm going to guess, a couple hundred years at least. Yeah. But you never give an exact time. You never give, like, how did he come to this job? How did he come into these powers? Where's the source of all this coming from? Again, dropping the little hints, like the arming up scene. The second time you see the box under the bed. The first time I was really trying to see what that was, and I watched that scene about 6 times trying to figure out, like, what is he putting in that box? I couldn't figure it out. And then you see it later, and you see the various types of ammunition, and you're like, okay, like this is definitely. And especially with the final confrontation with
Ruth.
Yeah, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who was probably my favorite character. I loved her in this.
Amazing,
she was so good.
I'm so glad you dug her. Yeah, no, I think she in just wonderful, wonderful actor. Instantly knew what to do, like the perfect balance, right, of toughness and loving. But like, and Ian and I were saying, like, this is very much echoes sort of a relationship that our own parents have in a lot of ways. So our dad like owned a photography studio for 20 years, but our mom made sure the place didn't go out of business, made sure the bills were paid on time. Like everything logistically happened because of her. But our dad was sort of like the front-facing photographer element of the business. And so that relationship we sort of very much modeled on our own family.
Yeah, Mel and Walton, they're going to Mel and Walton, but she was the glue, I think, that really held this together. Like she was so great. Like not letting him take cookies and he has to like take it and run off like a toddler. Like that was one of the funnier parts of the film when she brings the cookies out and she won't let him have one. And he just like grabs one and runs off. Like it was seriously like a toddler stealing candy.
A great little detail on that scene is like, that's not in the script. Like Mel just does that on the day. And he's like, you guys think that's funny? We're like, yeah, dude, it's awesome.
It's really good. I love that.
Yeah, like all those little moments at the end of, like he and Marianne had such great chemistry on and off set. They were always, when we weren't shooting, standing next to each other, making each other laugh. And I just remember every time we had a scene with them, they would start to, like, we'd finish the scene and Esh and I would just let it roll, because a lot of times she and Mel would start to improv. And that's what a lot of those little moments are at the end, where you just don't say cut, because they have such a great rapport. They just keep going, and they're just trying to make each other laugh with some of the bits that they're doing. And it plays really warm to the audience. And then all of a sudden she's picking up a rolling pin, going after him. And it's just funny. And, and they're just screwing around with each other. And you could get that amazing vibe. And I mean, I think Mel in one interview was telling everybody that, like, they're like, how did you guys have such great chemistry? And he was like, well, I think it just comes from Marianne and I both having been married for a long time. And Marianne's nodding, and they're just talking about their marriages to their significant others, just really playing a big part when they started playing together. And they would just they would endow each other with each other's significant other, which I thought was pretty awesome.
I thought it was great.
I'm going to break in here for a quick second. Steve from the Super Retro Throwback Reviews, which actually he helped us connect with you guys. He said it was really good. How's it going, everybody? And Dan says, I wasn't expecting it to be that serious of an action movie. I was thinking something more of tongue-in-cheek, like the fake Major Saves Christmas insert from Scrooge. And also, we're going to play a quick ad. So, we love supporting, indie filmmakers, indie creatives, and indie businesses. Deadly Grounds Coffee, they're a sponsor of the network. They help keep the lights on here. And we absolutely love their coffee. A little mom and pop shop here in Connecticut. But you know what? Here's a zombie talking about coffee.
Are you tired of those boring, predictable gifts? Every holiday season, it's the same old thing. A pair of socks, that terrible holiday sweater, or how about that fruitcake? Oh, if I get another fruitcake, I'm gonna tear into someone's esophagus. Anyways, why not try something bold this holiday season? And nothing screams festive like a zombie Santa with your coffee. Bold, robust, delicious. Deadly Grounds Coffee. It's coffee to die for and zombie approved. Why not get a little deadly this holiday season?
And actually, that's what I'm drinking right now. Death by Chocolate, absolutely amazing. I drink way too much coffee. I was actually cutting back for a little bit, but I'm back up to like pot and a half, 2 pots a day. Which it's sad.
That's what broke Ash right there. That's what broke Ash.
Hey, you got it. Be careful, Leo. Tread carefully, my friend. There could be consequences. That's all I'm going to say. You got to be careful.
So you guys touched on it a little bit. How was it working with Mel?
Man, he was fantastic. He really was. I think one of the best examples of him on set is just like we were saying a little bit earlier before we came on, guys. Like that shootout sequence at the end of the film was -36 for those 4 days we were shooting, and it was unbelievably cold. More cold than 2 California guys have ever experienced. And we were bundled up like Everest. Like we were going to scale Everest. We were really bundled up in as much gear as we could put on. And Mel's in his costume with like fingerless gloves because he has to work the guns. And so we wrap him for about an hour. We're like, hey man, you're good. Go to the warming tent for about an hour, and then we'll see you in about an hour. He's like, okay. We turn around 20 minutes later, and he's right behind us. And we're like, hey, oh my God, did you not hear that? You can go to the warming tent, like take some time, get warmed up. He's like, no, if you guys are out here, I'm out here in this shit. And so he stayed out there with us for all 4 days, refused to go to the warming tent. And he was just out there in solidarity, and he would just tell stories and crack everybody up. And he was a lot of fun to have on set. And I mean, I can't even tell you how much we were constantly picking his brain and like asking him, what happened Lethal Weapon when you did this, Apocalypto when you did this, and what happened in Hacksaw Ridge when you did this. And he told us a lot of things about how he did this and that. And Ash tells the story about how he told us how to double print frames on this one thing, and we actually used it in the film.
Yeah, he's like, I remember in Braveheart, I double printed some frames, and I'm like, oh, really? What instance was that? He's like, oh, this blade. I'm like, okay, wait, we double printed frames in Fatman. Like we're taking every nugget we could from him. And
in the collaboration process, like I mean, you bring that guy in because he's so great in front of the camera, especially in this aspect. If he was going to direct it, you'd say because he's so great behind the camera. But I think it's that duality. He's good in front and behind the camera. He knows what it takes. He knows what you would need or he would need as a director. So when he would come up to us with suggestions, he would literally come up and say, hey, take it or leave it. This is but what do you think of this? And immediately the take it or leave it, like you can kill this if you want. I'm happy the way it's playing. It immediately opens you up as a director and gives you the freedom to have a conversation rather than some kind of ultimatum that you're in some kind of confrontation rather than a discussion. So it would immediately put you
disarm you,
disarm you, and you would just have a conversation about it. And then we'd all be laughing about it and talking about it. And then he'd roll out and try it in the scene, and of course he'd kill it. But I mean, that's why you bring the guy on, is because like him, Walton, Marianne, Chance, you brought these 4 leads on because of how talented they are, and of course we want to collaborate with them. We want them to bring their A game and their A-list ideas. You want their best game possible. So we were super excited for moments like that because that's why you bring those people who are really good at doing what they do in, because you want their best, man.
Yeah, and Mel's a hell of a director.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And don't you better believe there were some butterflies going into that, right? Like, what are we going to tell Mel Gibson about how are we going to direct Mel Gibson here, But honestly, he was so open, such a wonderful collaborator, so generous with all of his knowledge. He would start with like, okay, this is your movie, but what do you think of this or whatever? He would always come in with a very disarming statement to sort of, put everything at ease, and then he'd put forward a suggestion, and then you just discuss it, and then he'd come back and kill it. So, yeah, man. But he also sees everything.
Yeah, that was the other thing we realized.
Like he's there as an actor, but he's not. He's like, because he's directed and been in it so long, he's like, oh, hey, what lens is on that A camera over there? And you're like, oh, it's a 65. And what about the B camera? Oh, that's a foot 38. And honestly, he's just checking off everything and making sure he's doing his own little QC out there,
He's checking over he's watching the monitor in between takes, because we'll go back to monitor and watch playback and get a perspective and be like, okay, well, let's do it again and this. But he would always go back most of the time, go back there with us, watch with us on the monitor. We would quickly discuss. He would just be watching and, being omniscient, taking it in. And then when we got back to set, yeah, he would just roll out for the next one and kind of understand if we wanted something changed or not. He'd just roll right into it.
I remember it was about a week into shooting, and he was like, hey, guys, you think I could see something? And we're like, oh, dang. I mean, yeah, Mel, of course. Like, if you wanted to see something, just speak up. He's like, I think this is the longest I've ever gone without watching any of the footage from the movie I'm in. And I'm like, dude, let's come over. And, like, Ian and I had already been, like, roughing together scenes, and we had the assistant editor roughing together scenes. And we're like, well, man, we'll come over. Let's throw it up on the screen in your hotel there, and we'll watch it together. So we came over that night and watched it, and he was super stoked. So that was very fortunate for everybody, and off we went. But yeah, there was a little moment of when he was like, you think I could see something? But he just really wanted to see the character, himself embodying the character on screen.
Yeah, because he was doing like a really gruff voice, and he was putting on this kind of cowboy persona, and he just wanted to make sure it was really playing, that he believed it,
So it sounds like he was very thorough, almost as if there was a list that he had that he would be double checking as he went through it.
Lame joke. Now that is an angry nerd right there. Sorry, Pat. I have a question though. No disrespect for Pat for saying Marianne was the glue, or what we've just talked about Mel. But personally, I felt that Goggins stole this film big time, and as the film went on, his role actually seemed larger than anybody else's in the film too. It seemed like that he was on screen more than anybody else the last maybe hour of the film. I wanted to ask, how did you figure out to use him for this role? Because obviously he was perfect for the role, and also how is he on set? Because again, I felt he stole the movie, and I was wondering if he knew he was doing that, or am I just exaggerating how much he stole the movie?
I think everybody understood that Walton had the Flash character. Everybody did. And I think everybody, knowing that what he has done in the past, understood that he was going to bring a lot to it. Because as soon as we told Mel, we were going with Walton Goggins. He was like, "Oh man, he's going to be great. That guy's really interesting." We're like, "Yeah, I know. He's going to be so much fun." He was super excited.
And Walton had met with Mel about another project, so he was very familiar with him.
Yeah, so they knew each other.
And then as far as like the structure, that was absolutely by design. Like Billy's the catalyst, and then it's a baton pass to Walton as he carries sort of the message, up to Chris. So that was like very much the design, and then it goes into a Walton Chris movie, And
it's kind of twofold, right? It's kind of twofold because we're definitely saying with the baton pass that Billy very much could be turning into a sociopathic maniac like Walton Goggins. So we're trying to say, hey, this is where Billy's at, but he can very easily tip all the way over to Walton Goggins lands. And hopefully in the reverse of that, you can kind of see how maybe it's a different setup in that he was in a rougher household, but it was more physically rough. Probably. I'm sure there's mental, problems there as well, leaning him towards a bad side, but Billy's in a more affluent household. He's got those white collar problems as a child, where he has an abundance of things, but we're just trying to kind of show that handoff is going to go both ways, that Billy can very much turn into Walton, and Walton was probably in a similar situation as Billy.
I actually like your point there because, you're right. Billy is obviously as privileged as you can get. He comes from a filthy, wealthy family, maybe even old money too. Yeah. And Walton's character, he has a lot of money because he's able to purchase things left and right. But again, I figured that was because of his work.
Yeah.
But based off of the terrible things that happened to him as a kid, even though wealthy folk could have done the exact same things as working class folk, it felt his character came from a working class family, while obviously Billy came from a wealthy family, and yet both of them were projected to become sociopath murderers. And I thought that was interesting because they were almost mirror images of their backgrounds, and yet they were becoming the same character.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a fun, like you said, he's always buying shit. There's a fun consumerism, just a little bit that we were throwing in there where everywhere Skinny Man walked into, he'd come out with 10 bags of shit that he didn't even need, with skis.
But he figures out, it's like, oh no, he had these just in case, and obviously he orchestrates a plan to employ the ski in his siege.
Yeah, he does use them, and they come in handy.
Yeah.
But we cast the way that Walton was cast was that we had about a dozen people for that Skinny Man role that we had met with and that we were contemplating on. Great actors, all great, all would have done a phenomenal, unique job with it in their own way. But then I remember an agent at ICM, because we're at the same agency, was like, "What do you guys think of Walton Goggins?" And we were just like, "Oh shit, that's a great idea! Like, we'd love to talk with him about it." So Walton reads the script, enjoys it. We sit down with him, and we go to this little cafe, and within 5 or 10 minutes, Walton is up on his feet in the middle of a crowded cafe. Not too crowded, but there's plenty of people in there. And he's like, "I got this fucking elf in the sights." And I'm like, "Yeah, you motherfucker." And he's in the character right there. Everything's kind of washed away. And people are kind of like, "What the fuck?" Walton's doing the lines from the film right then and there. And we were just like, holy shit, this is the guy. It was that immediate for us and, for both of us. And we were just like, this is the guy. This is going to be the Skinny Man. I could tell. But yeah, that's how.
And then once you get Walton on the show, and now it gets serious because he brings a ton of ideas. He's full send. He's absolutely committed. And he threw a ton of ideas at us. He was like, "Hey, do you think there's a scene where I could be eating lunch in a Chinese restaurant?" And I'm like, "Well, let's figure out how to do that,"
Right.
So then we came up with a Chinese restaurant. We wrote the scene with the Chinese restaurant, passed it to him. He's like, "Oh, I fucking love this shit." And then we go into the Chinese restaurant, and of course, there's more things to play with there. We bring him this full duck, and he gets to fuck around with the duck. And then it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. And then the way he works on set is a lot of fun too, because he's not like a method actor. He's not like in character all the time, but he's very much, the character is simmering just beneath the surface of him personally. So he'll do the take, you'll say cut, he'll get up, like, "Hey, you got 20 minutes, Walt. You can hang out if you want." He's like, "Okay, cool." He'll get up, walk outside, and he's smoking a cigarette or hanging out or whatever, getting some fresh air before the next thing. and we'll come up to him, or someone will come up to him and say, hey, Walton, something, and he'll answer you in the voice of he's like, yeah, I'll have the chicken for lunch. You know, it's like very, like, he's very like the character right then and there. And then, you know, he very rarely pops out and is like, hey, it's Walton. You know, he very rarely pops out.
Only at dinner later on that night. You know,
he'd be fully out of it at dinner. But during the shooting of the day, he'd be just in the middle ground of half in his character and half himself when you're asking him questions.
Which was
really
fun.
entertaining, honestly.
That is awesome. And I do like the hamster survived. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
was awesome.
That little guy.
in the shooting of this film.
That's right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I'm going to play the trailer here again. I want to remind everybody we're talking about the new movie Fatman. We absolutely urge you to check it out. Do yourself a favor. This is a movie I'm going to be watching every Christmas from here to eternity. So just, you know, check it out. It's phenomenal. There's a link in the show notes down below or up above where it's actually available on VOD right now, or you can buy the DVD. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray myself, and I rented it as well. So it's can't get enough of this movie. But here we go. Here's the Fatman.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've lost my influence. Maybe it's time I retired the coat.
You still have it.
Some kids with a deer rifle put 2 holes in the sleigh, one in me. All I have is a loathing for a world that's forgotten.
The United States military would like to procure your services.
This is a one-time deal, gentlemen. How are you, Mike? Nicole and the kids are well, I hope.
Where are you?
You just lost a big son! Fatman!
What's the job?
I'd like you to kill Santa Claus.
I'm looking for the Fat Man.
You can't be serious.
This is what people actually think of me. Christmas is a farce. I am a joke.
What's the purpose of your visit?
Hunting. I'm gonna kill some things.
There is a rising number of our youth making poor decisions.
What the big man's head?
Severed heads rot, they mold.
They don't want his beard.
I'm not shaving off a dead man's beard. Your workers sure have healthy appetites.
That's why elves live much longer than humans.
And Chris, he does the same?
No, it's a giving that keeps him young.
I've come for your head, Fat Man!
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh.
You think you're the first?
All the fields we go.
Think I got this job because I'm fat and jolly?
Nothing all the way. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
How come while you sleep? The fat man's got his eye on you, kid.
Hey, whoa!
Oh, that's Donner. Lucky it wasn't Blitzer. Should tear your package clean off.
And there we go. Like I said, there's a link in the show notes down below or above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, where you can check it out yourself. It's on VOD, or just for those of you that love physical media. It's out on DVD right now, and the Blu-ray is pre-order. I'm getting mine. I think it said January. Can't wait to check it out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, this is definitely one I'm picking up on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised. One thing, Mel never wore the red Santa outfit. Was that intentional?
Well, he does wear a version of it. So when he goes out to deliver and he's got the Bible, like, or the book, the Not Your Nice list,
the Santa Bible.
It's like the Bible. It's like a red leather, big jacket parka type thing, and so that was kind of what our interpretation of the traditional Santa suit would be, something more utilitarian as opposed to.
He also wears it to go when he visits Billy at the end of the film. He wears that.
Yeah.
That's our version of the red jacket. It's a very dark blood red, and then it also is a call back to the way we were sculpting the outfit was like Ash said, a very practical, utilitarian, like exactly how he would have probably been dressed 100 years ago if he was operating out of the North Pole or a very cold place. We looked at like a bunch of old trappers at the turn of the, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, like the old fur carrier trappers up in the North Pole or up in Antarctica and northern Canada were wearing these incredible uniforms that you could just see their faces kind of sunflowered and all this like fur and these leather jackets. It's an incredible look, and that's what we were going for with
now with one other question I have for you. For Walter Goggins' character, did you try to have his character mimic Anton Chigurh?
No.
Country of Old Men. Okay, all right, because
I like that movie a lot, but I mean, it might be just the nature of the kind of mano-y-mano thing going on, and he's running around with an assault rifle. Why does he have a shotgun in No
Country? Yeah, it's like a silent shotgun in that one, and then the cattle thing.
Yeah, right. But no, because he would just take out the postman for no reason. He didn't have to, but he does anyway. And then he does it again with the next postman, and and then he does the threat to the woman at the pet store, similar to the gas station scene. But she walked.
I could absolutely see that overlap. And again, we wrote this script in
2006, I think.
4 or 6, 5 before
around 2005. But we had a script in 2006.
Yeah, but No Country for Old Men is an amazing movie, and we really enjoy it. But we definitely had almost all those scenes before that movie even came out.
The thing about why he's wiping those postmen out is because we figured if he wouldn't be that sloppy. It would be easier for him to kill the postman than have them have a trail of how he was getting to Chris. Because if he left them alive and there were people that recalled him asking about, what's this P.O. box, or where do all the Santa letters go to? And then he uses the first guy that he kills outside to get into the post office, because it is a gated. You do have to either be a postman. You can't just wander into a postman. So he used the first postman to get into the facility, and then he used the second postman for the information. But we figured he would probably want to kill them, because I don't think he would want to leave them.
Yeah.
Very thorough.
Either way, he's like one of the great villains I've seen recently, like Anton Chigurh or Cersei Lannister or someone like that just has a certain. Yeah, it was great. It was a great villain. It was a well made character.
I feel like all the heavies get to have the most fun, right? Like Heath and Joker. Even watching more recently, those eccentric bad guys are the funnest characters I think to play.
Yeah. I love that Chigurh character, but I think Walton's definitely probably a little more mouthy than Chigurh was. I mean, Chigurh was so calm and calculated, but he also didn't say much. He would be kind of like, "That's a dead dog right there," whatever he says. Yes,
it is.
He barely said it, but when he did say something, it was odd and menacing.
Yes, it is. That's great. I remember that. I gotta watch that movie again. That's a great movie. Sorry.
No, and even with Walton, you would only get, he would give you a lot of stuff. So there's several takes where we got one of them, where he's like, "I've come for your head, Fatman." He's yelling that. He only did that one time. He did a different.
That was a great scene, dude. That was awesome.
But there's probably the other takes that are just different, but are also great. He's just not yelling it like that. But we really like the yelling one, because you could just feel the pain of his childhood really coming out right there. What he's been living with the last 20 years.
Vengeance, right? Yeah,
or awesome. when he kisses that hamster. There's just so many different little pieces, so many pieces that Walton just brings on the day. One of the best things we got to do with him. So that there's that montage of him driving, or just he's cutting different soundtracks.
Yeah, right.
And we literally just hopped in the back with Walton and the camera, and just went on a 6-hour tour around town with Walton as the skinny man in the car, and he was pulling up to the McDonald's. It was hilarious. And then at one point, Ian and I jumped out of the car and we're just gonna go into Target and buy you a bunch of shit. So we came back with Ian came back with like a whole chicken and a toothbrush and like a 2 liter of soda, and we just threw all that stuff in a bag. And we're like, all right, just pull shit out of the bag and deal with it as you start driving.
That's right. I loved how at the Canadian border he mentions he has all the weapons, but I'm a hunter and he has like overkill paperwork. I mean, the detail you guys had, the character's so eccentric. It just works so well. It's awesome.
But I feel like that's how it is, right? Like as long as you've got the appropriate paperwork, like you can fucking have anything.
You drive a tank across the border and everyone will be fine.
Like he looked like he was like he was kind of looking around his surroundings, like, can I shoot this woman and like no one will notice? Like, can I get away with killing her because she saw my face? Like he definitely seemed like he was contemplating that.
Well, it's funny. One of the biggest notes we gave Walton heading into that character, I mean, even on the first day, just talking about him, because that's kind of how it works, right? You'll have a few conversations with an actor, and then they go away and for a couple of months build up what they want to do with all that you've given them, and then add a ton of their own. So I remember one of the things we told them that we really wanted this character to be was unpredictable. So when we would get to certain places, and in that script, there's a couple of reasons, right? He's the psychopathic killer. The other reason is because he's not quite sure if he's going to get through with his paperwork. So if for some reason she doesn't let him through, or she tells him there's a problem with the paperwork, he's contemplating what can he do, and he kind of glances around and he's like, I think I can shoot this woman and then drive through. You know, you don't get that through his head, but you can see that he's having homicidal thoughts right there of what he may have to do or what he may do. And then she lets him through, and he's like, "Thank you," and he just kind of cruises through.
Yeah, because I was picturing him turning and like, you know, like shooting her, and then being like, you know, like the stereotypical sorry, and then driving through.
Yeah, I think look, he's so bananas that you're just waiting for him to pop off like that, right? Like,
yeah,
like for us, that was what
a lot of fun with.
But we were really striving for was just to keep you guessing, like left and right. Oh shit, he just sped by that cop. Is that cop gonna pull him over? Oh no, the dude's dead asleep. You know, like, but just like
choosing the coat. The scene where he's choosing the coat is the best.
Which one's?
When he's choosing the coat.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, this makes me look fat. I fucking hate green. Like,
not a fucking too many sticks. I'm not a fucking tree. Yeah, there's just like, and no two of those takes were the same either. He was like, went through.
I think we had 2 or 3 of those in the script, and then Walton came up with 2 or 3 more on his own. And man, they were just funnier and funnier every time he'd say one. But I mean, and that's the great thing about him is that he, you know, I remember I was listening to a Q&A with him talking about when he first got on Vice Principals with the Rough House crew, and how nervous he was to improv with those guys because he was, you know, they had been doing it so long, and he was just going to come in here and try to jump in. And but that now he's a master at it. You know what I mean? So he gets in there and he'll throw these lines in that are just fantastic.
Yeah, it was excellent. It definitely lent more humanity to his, you know, he's not just like, you know, like Phil was saying, he's not like Anton Chigurh, who is just this single-minded, almost like a Terminator type character. Like, he has the things that he likes that make him human. You know, the hamster, you know, he wants to dress a specific way. And I will say, and someone else also mentioned it in the chat, that the way he was dressed was very reminiscent of the fake Lee Majors movie from Scrooge, The Night the Reindeer Died, where he comes in with like the white coat and the assault rifle, and he's defending Santa. There was definitely shades of that with that white coat and the assault rifle and the glasses. I thought it was. I don't know if that was intentional. Like,
I wish we could take any credit for that, because when we came out with the trailer and people were calling up that trailer. And we were just like, wait a minute, what? And I remember watching that trailer, and I've seen Scrooge. I probably saw it like 20 years ago. And every time it comes on TV, I watch it, but it probably comes on and it's 5 or 10 or 20 minutes into the movie, you know, and I don't catch that because I think that's at the beginning of it. But I remember watching that trailer, and I was just like, it's fucking uncanny. It is spooky how similar a lot of that stuff is in there. And I'm just like, holy shit, was this like a subconscious thing? But I didn't remember. I didn't recall it at all. It's crazy.
But I think like our practical way of getting there was, okay, he's white. It's snow. Right. He needs a white parka to blend in, and so
I mean, it's Die Hard 2. Die Hard 2 is the same thing.
Yeah.
But it is funny how there is that overlap, right? It's like the snow led to the snow parka. And I remember we had our costume designer, Jen, build that out of like two like Eddie Bauer jackets, right? So like there was like, we couldn't find a coat that was that long that wasn't a woman's coat. So,
or that looked that like kind of over the top. Like it's like he's dressed for, I don't know what he's dressed for, but it's a little over the top. It's a little feminine, but it's also kind of badass at the same time. It hit all these weird check marks for us that we really love.
And then like, we had to like add all those like Kevlar patches to it, like the shooting patch on the shoulder and then like the forearm Kevlar, and then they put like a million pockets in it. So when he's like looking for his phone in that one scene, he's like just going all over, which is, and like that just sort of arrives from, you build a coat and then now you get another gag downstream because it's like, oh shit, what pocket is organic? Yeah.
And that calls back to what you were, this whole conversation calls back to what you were talking about, Phil, where you were saying we spend so much time with the skinny man. And it's, for us, like, he's one of the most entertaining characters in the film, which we like, which is why I think, he's kind of your comic relief. Plus, he's kind of your intimidation factor and your thriller element. So when you cut back to him, there's a lot of entertainment going on with him. And it also, the more time you spend with that guy, the more odd empathy you have for him, because you can at least see where he's coming from. And you've lived with him for so long that when he shows up, there's a little more gravitas to that moment when he's against Chris. And I think for most people, they're wondering, okay, I've spent so much time with this villain, and I have an understanding of him. If it's not full blown sympathy, I at least have an empathy for where he's coming from. Like, is there going to be a situation here where he takes over Santa, or you think there's a lot more possibilities now that you spent so much more time with him, which we enjoy.
By fleshing him out, you actually keep the audience guessing even further, right? They're like, shit, well, you've invested my time in him now. Like, is he literally going to pick up and put on the coat and become Santa Claus? Like, we literally had people telling us that. And then when he did him there at the end, they're like, I thought he was going to put on the fucking coat. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, yes.
I felt he was going to be a tragic figure myself, because I kept on thinking stuff like that or he's going to be forgiven or something, he's going to start working with Santa or whatever. But I just kept to remember that, oh yeah, he already killed the postman, he already killed this person. It's something. I don't think they're gonna make him anything but a tragic figure at the end myself.
Well, and you're not wrong, Phil. Like, he definitely he was probably too far gone, and I think Chris gave him every chance he could. Even trying to get him to stop there in the scramble in the snow. But Skinny Man's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He's not going to say quit. He's a true professional.
Yes. Yes.
Dane Inkenton says, being mouthy was why I liked Mel so much in Expendables 3. It's like he was an evil Martin Riggs, and that was just epic. And so the way this ends, is there any plans to do a sequel or expand on the storyline, or I just want to see more of this.
Well, Ian and I have kind of like, we've definitely wanted, there's more to this story. And we're like, if this is our Mad Max, what's our Road Warrior? If this is Alien, what's our Aliens? Like, that's sort of where, like, the sort of evolution we want to take it.
Yeah, we're excited to expand the world. When we first wrote this idea down, we did 2 short stories, and one of them resembled what we have right now, the contemporary version. One of them was a prequel that gave you backstory as to how he became Santa and who he was. And then now that we've had 14 years to sit with the script, we have an idea of how we want to progress the story that we've told as well. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff we want to do and play with.
Make a twin brother for Walter Goggins' character, though. You got to bring him back, man. He was awesome.
The twin brother who is the cop.
Yeah, well, honestly, we can't wait to make more films with Walton. He was such a treat.
Yeah, he's a blast, man.
I don't know if we'll be able to squeeze him into another Fat Man, but he was a true joy to work with.
Squeeze him in somewhere, by God.
Yeah, we'll just have it. Gosh, what he does like a woman in Sons of Anarchy, right?
Exactly. He can do anything.
Yeah. We'll gender bend him.
Yeah, he's great.
So one of the things that I love doing this show is, Patrick, sorry to put you on the spot, but you come across with just a unique view, or you capture some small nugget of information, something really obscure. Was there anything you caught in this one?
I liked the fact that you could piece together a little bit of his backstory and how long he's been doing what he's doing based on not only his location, but also the fact that, if you pay attention to what's going on in the film, like what I said with the ammunition that he had, the gun that is used at the very end, and the fact that, when we have the conversation with Seven, we find out that elves live much longer than humans, and that they don't replace anyone. No one gets a new number.
Yeah.
And you're up to, I think, 152 was what I saw in the...
Man, you are keen. That was fun sort of coming up with all that. And there's like a ton of stuff that we hid in the production design too, like in the house and stuff. Like you see that old like Davy Crockett, black powder gun above the mantle there. Like, there's like some blades hanging on the walls and stuff like that. Like Chris August and his team did a really great job. The production design team.
Interior and exterior of the place that we shot. I mean, Chris's homestead is interior of the house is one location and the exterior is another location, and we had to do that just because the house that we were shooting on, the interior of the exterior, was modernized a bit. It had been renovated maybe 30 or 40 years previous. And
80s,
found this house like 15 minutes up the road that still had all the original craftsmanship of 1890 when it was originally built. And so when you look on the roof, it has, there's a couple of things that have been upgraded. Like you see this stove in the middle that was probably 1920s, 1930s, and then there's all this wood craftsmanship on the ceiling and on the walls that was done in 1890 by the guy who originally built the place. And I can only imagine it was very Michelangelo style of him laying on his back on some platform, because it's like it's hand chiseled like woodwork, designing all on the ceiling of the kitchen. It was just beautiful, and the brickwork they did that, back in the day they had these heating flumes that ran throughout the house on these vents coming out of the brick fireplace that ran up the middle of the house, and then it would spread out to the rest of the house and heat the whole place. Which we don't quite build them like that anymore. But it was really interesting to see the ingenuity of the early or late 1800s, early 1900s, and how that was, how they had a very practical solve to all these things instead of technological solve.
Yeah. We must have looked. Oh, go ahead, Pat.
I was gonna say it almost felt like, there was some nice modern touch to it, but like the house definitely felt very, very rustic. It was almost like, okay, this appliance no longer works, or we need to be more efficient, because the elves kept saying, optimizing and being more efficient. Getting to a point where it's like, okay, I can't replace this part anymore. It's time to get a new thing. So it's almost like some of the stuff felt out of place with, like you said, the older stuff from the late 1800s to now, some modern appliances, just because the necessity was there, because there was no way to replace these old pieces anymore.
Yeah, and look, like there's no denying, like Chris is like a Luddite, right? Like he does not embrace technology, so he's going to have a rotary phone. If it ain't broke, he's not going to fix it. But at the same time, the demands of creating so many toys, they had to make innovations. So there's the magic boxes back there with the twinkly, sparkly lights.
Yeah, we like the idea of having, like, especially in the factory, the idea of it being this. I mean, and it goes throughout his house too, right? Of like you were saying, this sort of layered technology. You have these, this anachronistic feel of like the past and ancient, and then you have this sort of new technology piled on top of it as he's walking through that. As they're walking through it in the beginning, he and Seven, and Seven's disgorging to him how productivity's going and all that. You can see some flat screens in the background, and then, coupled with the sort of archaic rollers and, Industrial Revolution type, industry standard that they're using in there for, what works the best? Is it the old boiler room? Well, they kept that. Is it the old sewing flumes? Well, they kept those. Is it and then it's like, well, we need to update the technology for this. And they would just layer that on top of it. We loved that feel.
We had to search pretty high and low for those locations too. I mean, that Chris's factory is like an old chocolate factory that we reappropriated, which was cool. That had been shut down for like 2 decades. but I had all those like wonderful piping and brickwork and everything in it. And then we had to search high and low for the homestead, for Chris's homestead. We searched for like a week. We must have looked at 100 farms, and we did it through Google Maps. So like we just look at like topographical views of these places, and we're like, oh, well, we need a satellite structure and like a house and all this stuff. And so we just drove around forever until we finally found one, which is pretty bright.
Homestead Lane is what we drove down to find that one. It was crazy.
Yeah, the homestead ended up being on Homestead Lane, which is crazy.
Oh, the sign.
Yeah.
I know we're running a little past time. Phil or Patrick, did you guys have any other questions you wanted to make sure you got in?
I think we covered pretty much everything. The only question I would have is what kind of are we going to see any like extras or outtakes? You know, we were talking about all these different extra takes and things that we've had with Mel and Walton and the interaction that everybody's had. Are we going to see any of that stuff on the Blu-ray?
So we did put several deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. We did a commentary with Mel, so that was fun. And then Ian and I talked about why certain scenes were omitted from the film.
And then we also did a storyboard to scene analysis with, I think two scenes?
Two scenes. So we did the showdown, and then we did another one, which I'm blanking on for some reason. Oh, it's the factory floor scene, right?
Again, we did a commentary over that as to like why we did this and why we changed this and why that's the same and whatnot. And yeah, and what that process is like for us when we're storyboarding it. We got in as much as we could in like the 2-minute sequences and 3-minute sequences that there are.
Nice. And just a reminder, I have the information in the show notes down below or up above, so you can order your own copy. So, I urge you, definitely order on Blu-ray, and, while you wait, just rent it on VOD. It is the holiday season, so
well worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Leo, Phil, Pat, thank you guys so much for having us on the Dorkening. Really, really appreciate it.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for joining us. This was a good time.
Totally.
Absolutely.
So where do you guys like your fans interacting with you?
Just send them all to Ian.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter a bunch, and we're both on Facebook. You can either look us up under Nelms Bros on Twitter or Facebook, or I'm also on there, Ian. But I've been answering a lot of people I know that from my personal account, but also the Nelms Bros is active as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of information in the show notes for that as well, including your website, nelmsbros.com. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Phil, where do you like people interacting with you?
Oh, folks can go to darkdiscussions.com. That's the website. And we do have a Twitter, Dark Discussion 1, Facebook group, Dark Discussions Podcast Facebook group, and so on.
Okay. Patsy.
Probably the easiest place is, Facebook or the Throwdown Thursday podcast.com, where you can find all the latest news and articles, the latest episodes of each show, including my most recent article on what makes a Christmas movie, and I dissect Die Hard and Gremlins and Home Alone, and I think I reach an interesting conclusion that will leave everybody fairly satisfied.
Nice. Can't wait to read that. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which. I urge you, check out Fatman. Follow these awesome people. And head on over to thedorkening.com, which you can find all the shows on the network. I want to thank everybody for watching. Catch you guys later.
Thanks, guys. It was great.
Guys.
Bye.